Yo, guys, welcome back to another edition of AFK Discussions. It's your boy Jason and your boy Phil. And guess what? New show, new day. I don't know. I was trying to go off on Phil's tagline there, but I can't remember.
New, that's it. No, you got it.
Okay,
new
okay.
show,
New day. Hey,
Okay.
guys, I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Can't
That's
forget
right.
that. We got to say that right up front. But guys, check us out wherever you do social media, wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you do YouTube, which would be YouTube.
That's right.
But yeah, guys. Also, Fat Tack. I know you guys have been seeing me wear this hat, so check out fattack.com. They're a sponsor, and also they have some really cool holsters. And the thing is, they sold out of the holsters. They sold way too many, so they had to cut back because they couldn't keep up. But guess what? They're back in stock now. Check it out. I got one right here. The Fat Tack Premium Holster. Now, this is just a sticker I put on. But guys, if you're interested in having a AFK branded holster, good news is I'm going to be designing one, and soon you'll be able to order it. But yeah, it's really cool. Really, really, really good holster. All right, guys. So Phil, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Can't complain. A wonderful, beautiful Sunday. A great Mother's Day. I know you enjoyed it with your wife and your kids. I enjoyed it with my mom. So is this a great time to enjoy it? Enjoy the moms out there, celebrate them. But we have a very special guest tonight, an incredible person that is a paranormal investigator, a poet, and an author of over 6 books. 2 of them are paranormal, one of which just came out recently and is called The Door is Open. I would love to introduce here Allie Rose to the stage. Here she is. Let me put her center stage. There she is. Hello, Allie. Thank you for joining the show. Just thank you. Welcome to AFK Discussions.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot to get into. You have many books. You're a paranormal investigator. You have done a lot of research. Well, let's just get to the basics. Maybe just plug where people can find your work, your books, and all that kind of stuff, what they're called, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Allie Rose. My books are available on Amazon. Just search Allie Rose or Allie Rose, The Door is Open, or Allie Rose Ghost Girl, because those are the 2 paranormal books that I have out, and they come up first in the search. I do also have a few poetry books. They're like smaller volumes of poetry, more like little chat books kind of, but those are also available on my Amazon. Some of them are Kindle only, but some of them are also paperback. And I also have social media over at Spooky Alley Cake on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of it. But I usually use TikTok. I mostly go on there and I post videos from my investigations, and I do like story time videos about paranormal stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. And I love your TikToks. I think your story time TikToks, when you retell some ghost stories or even some of your own personal experiences, I think is a really cool avenue to share your own personal experiences with, the audience out there. So I think it's a great way that you kind of do your own kind of thing on TikTok. So I like that a lot.
Right.
So to get off right off the bat, what got you into the paranormal? A lot of people sometimes have some sort of paranormal event. Some other people don't. Some people just have an interest in it from a young age. So where does it start for you?
So for me, it starts because I grew up in a really haunted house. Like my first ever memory, like of anything ever, was of the first time I saw a spirit. And from then on, I was just really curious about it. I didn't know what it was, and I just wanted to learn more. And I always just felt really connected to it in a weird way. And then I started seeing, ghost shows. The first one I ever saw was Paranormal State, and that inspired me to start doing my own investigations. And I started investigating in my house with friends at sleepovers when I was like 12. So we started with that, and then in high school we started going to haunted places in our town. And that town that I grew up in, Pensacola, Florida, is really, really, really haunted. And not a lot of people know about that, because when you hear about Pensacola, you usually think about the beach or the air station. But there's a lot of haunted history in Pensacola. It's actually the first European settlement. It wasn't St. Augustine. It was the first European settlement. Technically was Pensacola, but it failed miserably and it ended in tragedy. So that's why it's not talked about as much, because it wasn't a successful settlement.
Gotcha.
I did not know that.
I did not
so
know
from the
that.
start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's cool. Yeah, because I spent last summer I went to Florida and I spent a day in St. Augustine. I did the lighthouse. I did a few other things and got some interesting evidence there. So I definitely know that place is haunted. But I did not know
yeah.
about Pensacola. That's definitely interesting. And this is where your
Yep,
haunted house
Pensacola's
was
first.
located. Yep. Oh, I love
Yes.
it. Wow.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, and you cover this, correct me if I'm wrong, don't you cover this in your first paranormal book? Is more about kind of like how you grew up and your paranormal experiences, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the first
Okay,
book,
cool.
Ghost Girl, is about my first paranormal experiences growing up in that house and first starting to ghost hunt and learn how to do that.
Oh, that's very awesome. Not to give too much away about the book, but just give us a little tease about that, about some of your first experiences, or maybe just one of those, to give people a tease to, because I'm sure it's awesome, and you have some incredible stories about that, I'm sure.
Thank you. So I'll just start off with the first thing I ever saw. So when I don't even remember how old I was, but I was young enough for it to be like my first memory. And I was still like sleeping in my parents' room at that time. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt like I needed to look at the foot of the bed. And when I did, I saw this figure of a tall, like skinny man pacing back and forth across the room. And he was also like disappearing and reappearing as he was pacing. And there was this weird, like smoky substance, like kind of just like emanating off of him. And it was wild. I knew that what I was looking at was not something natural. And I just like stared at it. And I don't remember like if I went back to sleep or what, but I know that I woke up and saw that at one point and I was like, huh, that's weird.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
go on to see that. Yeah, I would go on to see that figure several other times, and so would other members of my family and my friends. And it was not the only apparition in that house either. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, as it pertains to this particular thing that you saw, did you think it was something that because some people say, well, it didn't seem like to interact with me. It just seemed like more of like a memory of that location. Or do you think this actually was a entity that was like knew that you were there and was, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that whole experience
I
with
think
that
that it knew
particular entity? Yeah, you knew. Yeah, okay.
yeah, it knew that I was there, because I felt like it did know at first, and then other experiences I had later led me to believe that it definitely knew that I was there.
Gotcha. And do you think this is
Yeah.
more of a trying to scare you type of experience, or just letting you know it was there type of experience?
The first one, I think it was just letting me know it was there, but I definitely had other experiences that
Mm.
led me to believe that was not a very nice entity.
Gotcha. Right. But that can happen in a lot of cases where at the first time you encounter some sort of entity or something, it's not as bad. But then as time goes on, things kind of take a turn and kind of go for the worse. Not in all cases, but in some cases that can happen. Kind of like to
Yeah,
lure you in, sort of thing. If you've heard
exactly.
people talk about that kind of stuff. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely interesting, especially when you're such a young age. To see something like that is definitely, albeit strange at first, it's definitely terrifying, especially when you realize, you kind of put two and two together in your mind, and you're like, oh, this is a ghost, or this is, then it can definitely scare you as a child for sure. And definitely
Yeah.
impact your childhood from that moment on, I'm sure. So
Yeah,
yeah,
growing up in
it's
that
no
house
wonder.
was
Yeah, right. And how long did you
Yeah.
live in this house? Did you live in this house a
I
long period of
lived
time?
I lived in that house until I was 21.
Ooh, yeah.
So it was a long time that I lived in that house.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was it was a lot. It was very stressful. I like never slept with the lights off like that
Wow.
entire time I was there, except for maybe like a couple times. So I went 21 years sleeping in the brightness.
I
Yeah.
100%. I experienced the same thing. Like seriously, like
With the
growing up.
lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, I slept. Well, I had my closet light on. I left it on. Would not turn it off, and the doors open. Just yeah, I've been there. And until see,
Yeah.
I guess I moved out when I was 23. I think so. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's amazing how the power of what the power of light can do in your mind when you're that little. Like the very fact that light like protects you, and so and in most of the cases it felt like it did, because most of the time you
Yeah.
had it on, a lot of things didn't happen. But it was only when you were like, oh, I'm not afraid, I turn off the light, and then that night something happens.
Exactly. Literally
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
I
So
would
it's
see stuff in
strange.
broad daylight too sometimes,
Mm,
but not as much when I was, like, really young. It did tend to mostly happen in the dark, but once it kinda realized I wasn't gonna really be in the dark often, it was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna start coming out in the light too," which
Mhm.
that
right. And then
sucked,
all
but that
bets were
was
off. Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
mostly, like, poltergeist type stuff and
Gotcha.
voices, at
Mm.
that point. I didn't see as much in the light, but I definitely did a time or 2.
Yeah, jeepers. Now, Tommy, we had a buddy on Tommy who had lived in a haunted house for a long period of time and had like a lot of sleep paralysis type situations happen to him. And when he moved to his new house, all that kind of stuff just kind of stopped happening to him. Now, when you moved from this house after 21 years and you moved into a new house, that must have just been, I mean, if this house that you moved into wasn't haunted, that is, it must have been quite an adjustment to go from a house that, where you're like, do I have to worry about what's, around at night, to being like, wow, I feel a lot better. I don't know how that situation worked for you, but um
It was pretty much, like, 100% better. I was, like, no longer scared to sleep with the lights off, but a big part of that might have been because I moved in with my husband, who is then my fiancé, and so, like, I wasn't alone. Um, I
gotcha.
still get a little uneasy being alone in a dark room if it's in my house. If I'm, like, investigating a location, it doesn't freak me out. I don't know why, but, yeah, but I mean, even now though, I still don't really have too many issues. So the house that we lived in together in Pensacola, zero like paranormal experiences at all. Then we lived together on campus in college for a bit, and that the college was haunted, but that dorm wasn't. So we didn't really have anything there. But then we moved here where we live now in like Appalachia, and this place isn't haunted, but everything around us is, so stuff passes through. And I've seen some things. We've had some experiences, and I do have a spiritual attachment now. Um, so not a bad one. Not a bad one. Just somebody who likes to follow me around. But so I definitely have a lot more experiences in the house now, but they don't scare me. I'm not like afraid.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. And because, especially if it's a negative entity or something like that, they definitely use fear to kind of like power themselves.
Exactly.
Because that's why they try to do, is because they feed off that kind of fear. And just which
Yeah.
just makes them stronger, and it just makes them more powerful. And then they keep on going and going and going, and just kind of torture you, kind of basically is what their whole thing is.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially that's all.
Yeah.
That's it, just to torture you. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's wild. Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that question, because Tommy had said the same thing, that like as soon as he moved to his new house, like all that stuff had kind of went away, and he doesn't really have those kind of episodes anymore. And it was literally the house and whatever was in that house, unseen force, whatever, that was doing it to him. So yeah, that's why I asked. I was just interested.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. So much to
Hey,
unpack here. Go ahead, Jason. You got a
real
question?
quick, yeah. So one thing about the whole Appalachians is something that I take for granted because I grew up here. But my good friend Tony Merkel, I'll steal this from him. He says the Smokies and the Appalachia, it's a magical place. It really is. I mean, I see it now through his eyes. I'm noticing stuff that I never noticed before, and it's really just an amazing place. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I lived in Florida and it was all flat. So like I had been around mountains because I went to the UK when I was like a kid, but like aside from that, I had never seen mountains or anything. So when when we moved up this way, we stopped halfway through at a hotel, and it had gotten dark before we had gotten to see the mountains. And so when it was daylight and I walked outside of the hotel, I looked around, there were mountains everywhere, and I was like, oh my god. Like it is wild to like see that for the first time, just that alone. And then like the amount of like spiritual stuff that's here
Oh yeah.
is a lot. Like there's more than I mean, I had always heard stories about like, Appalachia being spooky and stuff like that, but definitely coming up here, like you can feel it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. I
Yeah.
just I just went there for the first time last year, and we did a bunch of different investigations, Jason and I, in the Smoky Mountains, and um, not even just Elkmont. Elkmont aside, everywhere else we went was weird too. We had a
Yeah.
lot of strange things happen we couldn't explain, but then Elkmont is a whole other thing. So, but yeah, just it's an amazing part of the country that is definitely has a lot of things going on that you just can't quite explain.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
very, very
It's
strange,
just
you know.
it's like that song that says like life is old here, older than the trees. It's like that is so true. It literally is.
Mm,
And it's just you can absolutely feel it. It's wild.
It is.
yeah. No, definitely. Absolutely. So you do have a newer book out, which is about kind of like your second part of your paranormal journey. Um,
Yeah.
so let's get into that book a little bit. Like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but let's give people a little bit of a tease here so that way I know they want to buy this book because I've already bought this book. It's on the way. I'm going to be reading it.
Awesome.
But
Thank you.
let's, of course, no problem. Of course, but like let's yeah, so tell us a little bit about your paranormal investigations and wherever you want to take it, honestly, because you yeah, wherever you want to take it, whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah, so my second book is basically about so like backtracking a little bit. The first one is about how I grew up in a haunted house and first started ghost hunting and investigating and things like that. The second book is about how my experiences as a paranormal investigator now as an adult, and how I look back on some of the experiences as a child with a different like perspective now that I've had more experience. And also Appalachia, moving to Appalachia, and some of the crazy experiences I've had with, Appalachian woods entities
Mm.
and things like that. And just basically the investigations that I've been on recently. I especially go into like Gettysburg because that's where I go probably the most, or where I've been probably the most. And a bit about Penhurst and a few other places. I just talk about like what that's been like and what I've learned, and even like how my views on like spirituality and everything have evolved since I was a child.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's funny you mentioned Penhurst because I'm not sure if I knew that you'd gone to Penhurst because I've been to Penhurst many times.
Mhm.
And Penhurst is another one of those places that's thoroughly haunted and
Oh yeah.
it just amazingly so. Especially I found when because I like to get your thoughts on this since you've been there and done this investigating, and I'm sure you've gotten tons of EVPs and a bunch of
Yeah.
evidence there. Yeah, because this place is
Yeah.
wild. So I was in the hospital part. I don't know when the last time you went there, but in the last couple years they opened up the hospital part, which is
The
like another.
infirmary?
Yes, the infirmary.
Yes. Okay. All right. Go on.
Okay, yeah. So in the infirmary, it's like late at night. I was doing the paranormal investigation where it's like the groups and stuff, but at this point, the groups are like it's very few people now. It's just like me, my fiance Nicole, my sister, and her fiance, and like maybe four other people. That's about it. So we're talking about the dentist chair and talking about how
Oh,
um, certain patients, if they bite somebody, they would or I think it was once or twice. I think it was twice. They would like rip all their teeth out, and
yeah.
sometimes without anesthesia and stuff like that. So we're talking about the story, talking about like, oh, who wouldn't want anesthesia, right? And as soon as we say that, we get a EVP that says, I know something like I know, or something like yeah, I know, or yes, or something like that, basically agreeing with what we were talking about. So that place is just, and then later on in the same infirmary, we were just kind of like around another corner, just kind of really quiet, just standing there. Nothing happened. We didn't hear anything in the moment. Later on, it sounds like a full-on conversation between a man and a woman, and it's like them talking about like their past relationship and that like they had to break up, but like just a really
Oh my.
really bizarre conversation, because I knew it wasn't anybody that was with us because there was no one else there but us, you know what I mean? So it was just like
Wow.
really, really crazy stuff at this location. So I know you've been there, and I know you've probably caught some crazy stuff there as well. Um, I just think it's a place where like a lot of bad things happen to a lot of poor innocent people. So it's
Yeah.
definitely like a really high active place, and so that's my take on Penhurst, why it's so active. But
Yeah.
I'd love to know what you think of Penhurst and some of the evidence there.
Yeah. 100%. So, Penhurst is definitely one of the most haunted places I've ever been. And I've been to a lot. And a lot of the EVPs and answers that I got in Estes method sessions and spirit box sessions were really heartbreaking. Like we had a conversation basically with an entity who was a child and was telling us some terrible things that happened to them. Um, and it was brutal. It was really upsetting. But we also had some like kind of like playful encounters too with other spirits that were like it was like they wanted to play with us. So there was that too. Um, but the weirdest thing we got so in the infirmary, as you were, just
I
talking
love it.
about,
I love it.
um yeah, so I was taking pictures of the hallway and nobody else, like, so you know how there's like one end, so there's the door, then there's one hallway this way and there's a hallway this way.
Hmm.
Everyone else in the group was at the other end, like in the other hallway, but me and my husband were at this end by ourselves. No one else was there. And I was just taking pictures of the hallway. And at one point, so there's this little door that leads to this tiny, not even a room, like almost like a closet storage space with pipes. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're
Um,
talking about. Hmm.
yeah. So it's too small for someone to just like really go, like it would be really cramped and uncomfortable to go in there. And I didn't see this in real time, and I definitely looked in there and there was nobody, and they wouldn't have been able to just like get out without me noticing because of how small it is. um and I got what looks like a kid's hand reaching out of there.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creepy, creepy, creepy,
Yeah, and that picture is on my
creepy.
Instagram, by the way, if
I
you wanna
love
look at
that.
it.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
I would love to look at it. We'll attach it to this episode too, so people can take a look
Yeah.
at it. Because yeah,
Yeah.
you have to send that to me because I would love to see that because this place is unbelievable. Because we caught a full body apparition in the basement in the
Oh,
tunnel section. You know the tunnel part? I'm sure you do because
yes,
you went. So that
yes.
there's a whole creepy
Yeah.
story down there about a guy that like used to work there and like hurt kids and hurt people and hurt women and stuff like that. So the
King?
girl, yes, that's the one. So we're
Oh, I
down
have a
there.
story about him too.
So I love it. So
Anyway, go on.
I'm assuming it's him. It has to be him. That's the only
Yeah.
that's it has to be him. So we're down there and it's like you've been to Penhurst, so you did the group one, right? With like other people and stuff. Is that what the
Yeah.
one you guys? Okay, so how they
Yeah.
do is when you go to a new location, the guide or the person that's taking you around will basically tell you the paranormal claims in the area, tell you a little bit about the history, that kind of stuff before you kind of walk around.
Yep.
So it's at that point, so it's at the beginning of that, and we're just kind of standing there listening to the girl tell us all the things, and then one of the girls next to me or behind me says like, "There's a guy down there, like there's a man standing down there." And it, like you can see, like, so we take a couple pictures. You can see a silhouette of a man like standing behind like a plastic like sheet or whatever. And of course the girl goes down there. There's no one down there. On the
Oh my
on the
gosh.
halfway down the tunnel, there's a padlock on the door, locked. So there's no way anyone could have like left that area and not gone by it. You know what I mean? There's just no way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very similar thing where like you see some, you're like, there's no way that's a person. There's someone there. You go down there, you check it out. There's no one
Yeah.
there. The tunnels are creepy in itself. I heard in the tunnels, same area or different building, but tunnels. They're all connected.
Yeah.
We're walking down, and I'm like, "Are you on the?" Because on the word bank we got here, HERE,
Oh,
and so I was like, "Are you over here?" And I point in front of me, and I get a voice that says "No" behind me, and I
oh
heard
my.
it like aloud, like heard it aloud behind me, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Oh
So
my
yeah,
goodness.
Penhurst is crazy.
It
Absolutely
is.
crazy. Yeah.
So about King,
Yes,
um,
please. I would love to hear it.
so when I first, it was in the Mayflower building.
Mm,
When I went in during Paracon, the there were actually like a lot of people in the building at this point. But me and one of my friends, we weren't even investigating at this time. We were just looking around. And the entrance to the tunnels in Mayflower was blocked off. But we still stuck our head over to
of
look
course.
into the tunnels. And
Absolutely.
we heard someone whispering directly next to us. And I thought it was just in my head, but then I looked at her and she goes, "Did you just hear someone whispering like right next to her head?" And I was like, "Yep, I did." So later on I come back and I'm with my team, which I had been investigating pretty much by myself or just with friends up until pretty recently. I met this team at Penhurst Paracon, and now we like investigate together, and we'll be on YouTube soon. So
Oh,
there's
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, but uh, we were there and we were investigating in Mayflower, wherever it is that King hangs out in the basement the most. I think it was Mayflower. Anyway, we did an Estes method session, and one of the members of our group is a tall, masculine individual, and King is said to really not like masculine people. He doesn't like women and children either, but he will try to fight
Mm.
like men, right? So this member of our group was under, and they had their like they're under Estes, and the responses that we were getting to everything we were asking were like really sarcastic and like aggressive and saying like basically that they were going to punch our friend, and we were just like, okay, let's get you out from under Estes. And so we're walking out, and they said that like right before they came out from under Estes, they were like feeling someone standing behind them. And at one point, I don't remember if this was like right afterwards or a couple minutes later, but they felt someone, they felt like, they said they felt like they got stabbed. And it was like really bad pain in their side, and they just knew that it was King. And later on, because we came back like the next day for like more
Mhm.
Paracon stuff, we got a response that seemed to be confirming it was him.
Interesting. That's creepy,
So
huh?
yeah, like I haven't written a lot of this down. Like I'm kind of just like going off the top of my head from my memory, which was like a
Mhm.
year ago at this point. But like long story short, King was threatening a member of our group and ended up hurting them.
Oh man.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised because I have heard a lot of things like that about him. It's like one of the only known negative like male people that are there that's known
Yeah.
anyway. I'm sure there might be others, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely interesting. That place has a vibe of its own. Which building was your favorite? If you have a favorite,
Mayflower, 100% Mayflower.
Yeah.
There was so much activity in Mayflower, and that was where we were also encountering some of the spirits that seemed to be like a lot of that like are really like it's heavy energy. But there was one that wasn't really giving off those vibes, and it was interesting to me. And it was like I know I don't go into places like this and expect it to be like not heavy. But sometimes it starts to get to be a lot, and it was almost like a moment of like comedic relief from this particular spirit, and I thought that was really interesting. So that happened as well. But goodness, Mayflower, like every time I went into that building, something happened. Quaker was pretty cool too. I didn't have as much happen there, but it was definitely a vibe.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember which one of the buildings has like the classroom stuff in the basement? The classroom
Oh,
rooms and all that?
wait, I think that's Mayflower. I think you mean like
That's Mayflower, right?
the cubicle type.
Sort of. So in the basement, it's like, the hallways and stuff. And then if you go down the one particular hallway, there's like literal classrooms with chalkboards on the walls and stuff like that.
I think
I
that's
just can't.
Mayflower.
Okay, I thought so too.
Yeah.
That's the building that I got the no from behind me. That I was just wondering.
Oh,
That's what I thought. I thought that's why, because you said it was your favorite. I'm like, yeah, I think that's the same
yeah.
one. So that I think between that one, the Mayflower, I feel is really active, and
Yeah.
then the infirmary for like I feel like the two most active spots for sure.
Yeah. The infirmary
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's really strange. A long time ago when I was in college, I back before this like Penhurst was bought and fixed up and it was open to the public. It was just abandoned.
Yeah.
And we went there like back in 06 when it was just abandoned, and we actually got in through the infirmary area, and this is before, I mean, I was into ghosts, but not to the level I am now, and not an
Yeah.
investigative level or anything like that. And this is also like a lot less years of damage and water damage to the building, and there was a lot more things in there, so there was a lot more objects, and like it was really strange going in there. But there was a few times where we literally stopped and were like, wait a minute, did you hear that? Like, we thought we heard something, or like footsteps, or like, constantly. And of course we were sneaking around at night, so we were just like, oh man, someone's just like, around here to like
Yeah.
trying to catch us or something, you know what I mean, like a security guard.
Yeah.
But there was no one ever there. So we checked out a whole bunch of the campus. It was absolutely incredible. So we're about to leave. This is where it gets really kind of paranormal and kind of strange, almost as if, like you said, like something was kind of like looking out for us in this moment.
Yeah.
So we're about to
yeah.
leave, right? We're about to leave, and we're deciding whether or not to run to the car, or we should wait for maybe security to drive by, then go. So that way we know that they're on their loop and we can go, behind their loop. So that way we have plenty of time to leave without being seen. So we're like debating whether
Yeah.
or not to do this right outside abandoned Penhurst. And so all of a sudden we look up, start hearing something. We're like, what's that noise? And then all of a sudden we hear something crash, like a tree branch or something breaks in the background and falls to the ground, and we hear like movement. And so we all like fall to the ground. We're like laying on the ground. All of a sudden we hear and like a cop car drives by us, like right in front of us. And we're like, all right, that's our cue. Now, if we would have been standing up, like I said, if that thing didn't fall on the ground, we would have been in the road, and the cop would have just been like drove right up on us, and we would have been caught.
God.
But
Dang.
it didn't. That tree thing broke. Something happened. There was movement. We didn't know what it was, but that happened. We fell down, and we were like laying on the ground, like scared. And then the cop drives by, and then we're like, all right, that's our cue. We got to go. And we were safe, and we made it out, without getting arrested. So yeah, but weird though, especially when you said you had some sort of strange experience, kind of like at Penhurst. Is strange.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is kind of what it felt like kind of looking out for you type thing.
Yeah.
Like exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, weird.
Wow.
Very, very weird. I haven't really had much like that happen before, as far as like a haunted location like that and randomly, but definitely interesting for sure. Yeah, Penhurst is absolutely a different animal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
I'm
one of those
going back
places-
soon.
Yeah. Oh, are you? When are you going back?
Yeah, like actually like this week.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to get back. I haven't been back in like probably over a year and a half or so, maybe a year
Same.
since I've been back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not
Oh
that, I mean,
man.
it's like a 6 hour drive for me. So it's not too far for me.
Yeah.
So it'd be like over like a weekend thing or something like that. But
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
how far it is. How far it is from here, because that would be cool to meet up with you, Phil, and do an investigation. Because I've never been, and that's someplace
absolutely.
I've always wanted to go.
And
So,
Gettysburg isn't far from that either,
Yeah.
about
I was gonna
hour,
say.
hour and a half or so, maybe something like that in between the two. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Something like
Like
that.
yeah. It's about an hour and a half
Yeah.
between. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So
Yeah. So yeah, we could do Gettysburg, Jason, and we could do Penhurst, and Philadelphia is close by too, so we could do some stuff in Philly too.
that would be
All right there.
literally an awesome like
yeah,
like
Yeah.
little road trip thing.
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
for sure. And if we do it, we'll have to invite you because
I was
obviously
gonna say you should bring me.
you're in the area. We'll do a whole big collab. It'll be
Yeah.
that'll be really sick.
That'd
That'd
be
really
so cool.
Yeah.
So what?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. What town is Penhurst in? I'm trying to look up
Spring
the
City.
Spring City.
Spring City.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's what's really weird about that. So I randomly, I used to live in Spring City, Pennsylvania.
Oh my god.
Yeah, when I went to college, I went to college out there, and then after college, we moved to Spring City, and yeah, so I lived down the street. I lived literally probably like a mile from Penhurst for like
Oh
3 or
my
4 years.
god.
Yeah, very, very strange. I mean,
Oh,
never really went
wow.
there. Like it was before I, did ghost stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
random. That's why I
Oh
know
my
like
god.
exactly where it is. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly where it is. About an hour and a half.
So
Like
weird.
hour and a half from here. Yep. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Awesome.
Yeah, it was so weird because at the time, I think Ghost Hunters had just done. I was living there when Ghost Hunters did their live Penhurst
Oh.
investigation or whatever. It was like maybe 08, 09, maybe
Yeah.
2010, something like that. But yeah. Yeah, crazy. Time flies. But yeah, that back in
Wow.
those days, Penhurst was so much cooler. I mean, it's cool now,
Yeah.
but back in those days, like I said, everything was still in there. Like
Yeah,
I
when it's
remember
like
going, yeah,
abandoned.
yeah, right. It was like they just basically got up and left everything. So when
Mhm.
we went there back in 06, I remember it was one of the basement buildings. I think it was the infirmary one, which you can't even get down into. So it might still be down there. I don't know, but there was like barrels of like kids polio braces. Like polio, like like the
Oh
Forrest Gump,
my
like
god.
yeah,
Yes.
that's exactly like little ones, like little kid size. And
Mm.
so they
Holy
were all like
crap.
in this huge bucket, and I was like, holy moly, look, these are all like polio braces. And then they had like all these like old government MREs and stuff like
Oh
that,
my
survival
god.
food, yeah, all kinds of random stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, random stuff. I remember there was a kid's restraining chair where it was like a little chair with like a hole where the neck is so they could strap your
Oh
head back
man.
to
Yeah.
stop them from like moving around or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, there was a lot of creepy stuff in there. Which
Wow.
we you just would randomly see, and just walking around and be like this, that, and the other thing, all
Mhm.
set up just exactly how they left it.
Mm.
Yeah, it was so creepy back in
Wow.
those days. Because you go through now and they
Oh.
really clear out a lot of pretty much everything's. They pretty much clear out
Yeah.
everything. There's not much left. So it's just
Yeah.
empty rooms, but the ghosts are still there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They don't go anywhere,
100%.
believe me.
Mhm.
They do not. They're very intelligent as well. Like it's not like just a residual haunting. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
an
Yeah.
intelligent haunting too. Like so I had are you guys familiar with Project Fear?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
I've
think
heard
so.
of yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So they had just investigated Penhurst like literally the week before I got there last time I went. And I was asking about them and I was like, hey, Project Fear was just here. Do you guys remember them? And loudly and clearly through the spirit box, we hear Connor. And Connor is one of their members. He's
Wow.
their like editor and B-roll camera person and like one of their like really good friends.
Mhm.
And I told Connor about it and he was like, I purposely tried not to go in any of those buildings. What the hell? And it
I
really
love
freaked
it.
him out.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I bet. Especially if you're not like an investigator, you're just like a camera guy or a sound guy or like an
Yeah.
editor, or you're not
Yeah,
really
he
a
was just
part
there
of
for
the.
B-roll.
Yeah, right, right. That's because
Yeah.
like if you're investigating, yeah, like after a while, it's like, yeah, you get your name said, no, yeah, like whatever.
Yeah,
That
it
happens.
happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. It's gonna happen a lot more, believe me.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's
100%.
yeah. So like once that happens, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, if you're not used to it, or if you're not a part of the investigation at all,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. Definitely
Yeah,
kind of weird, and could be unnerving for someone, for sure.
absolutely. Connor finally, like, for the first time, like, actually investigated with them at Crescent was his first investigation, and he was, like, alone in a jail cell, and I was just like, dude, that is, like, my first investigation was way less terrifying. I don't know how you made it through that. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
impressive. It's
So
definitely a hard one to start with. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah.
if I'm thinking of the same group, they went to a place close to, well, actually a couple places close to me. They went to Brushy
Oh.
Mountain
Yep.
Penitentiary, and then also Harriman Hospital, which was another like
Yeah.
really crazy place. Yeah. Those are like
Yeah. Yeah.
30, 45 minutes from me. So
Yeah. They're pretty cool. They're good at what they do. They're super nice people. Yeah. Oh, before I like forget, I was gonna bring up so at Penhurst was where I realized that I had a spirit that was following me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, get into that if you don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely. So I don't know if you might have seen this on my TikTok, but the ghost named Steve, who I'm
Mhm.
always talking about on my TikTok, that is the spirit who follows me around. I picked him up in Gettysburg because so it was the first investigation I ever did in Gettysburg, and it was over by the Grove area, which is right near East Cemetery Hill. And I had permission to be there, but most people don't get permission to go there, but it was on a tour. So and we were doing the spirit box, and all of a sudden this we're like, what's your name? And this voice comes through, and it's like, Steve. And we're all like, oh, okay, and asking him questions. We're like, are you a Union soldier or a Confederate soldier? And he goes, Steve. We're like, how many spirits are here with us? He goes, Steve. And we're just like, okay. So and I got this sense that he was like messing with us, like he was just trying to like make us laugh, basically. And so that was funny. And like, so after that, anytime anything weird would kind of happen in the house, my husband and I would just joke that it was Steve. But so at Penhurst, I was using the spirit box, and none other than the exact same voice comes through and says, Steve.
oh my god.
And I'm like, Steve, is that you? And he goes, Steve. So I'm like, what the heck? So I go back to Gettysburg, right? I go to Sachs Covered Bridge, and I specifically ask for Steve. And I'm like, Steve, can you come through? He comes through. So every time I've been in Gettysburg and I've asked, he has come through. And I tested out in Florida as well earlier this year. He came through, and I have that on video.
I love it.
And like, that is wild. But the first time I ever realized that he was kind of following me around was at Penhurst. So that's another memory I have from Penhurst, even though he's not from Penhurst. But the craziest thing about that is that recently another paranormal team reached out to me, and they told me that they have had the exact same experience with a spirit. They weren't even in Gettysburg when this happened, so I don't know if he's even from Gettysburg. But they said that they have it on video and everything, they were investigating somewhere, I think in California, and a spirit started coming through the spirit box and saying Steve over and over and over, and it follows them too. So I don't know who Steve is,
Right.
but
Yeah,
he's got a sense of humor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or really just wants his name said, I guess. It's just like
Exactly.
what is up with that? Or I don't know. Maybe they're looking for Steve. I don't know. Like
Yeah, I've wondered that
yeah,
too.
yeah. Like I thought, like the reverse. Maybe they're like looking for Steve and just calling out for him.
Yeah. Like the guy
I'm
in Red Dead
hoping that.
Redemption who's like, have you seen my friend Gavin?
Yeah, right. That's exactly. Yeah, right. They're literally looking at like literally going spirit box to spirit box. Steve, are you there?
Yeah.
Steve, are you
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Oh my
right. Yeah.
gosh.
Strange. Very,
Yeah.
very weird. Very weird. You have to let me know. In the future we'll have to have you back on and see how that progresses.
Yeah,
If that just keeps
absolutely.
on happening, or if it starts to fade away and go away, then all of a sudden, 8 months from now, then he pops back up again, and it's very strange.
Exactly. You never know what you're gonna.
Especially right. You never know what you're gonna get. It's like box chocolates.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, it's very strange. Very, very strange how
Hmm.
why they would do that.
Yeah.
Very, very weird. Yeah, strange. We did have a couple questions on here. I don't know if any of us can answer this question, or we think it's higher up or whatever. But do you think the activity is high at present with the solar flares? I heard some people
Hmm.
talking about that
Oh.
kind of stuff. What do you think about it, Allie? We'll start with you.
That's a good question. So like I personally am pagan, so like I believe that there's a lot of like spiritual energy in nature. So I definitely think that that is a possibility. I haven't noticed anything specific myself, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true for others or that it's not
Right.
true in general. So I don't know. I think there's a good chance for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. You never know. I don't know when they started, so I don't know when to compare it to like previous times or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I may be interested to see in the future if they happen more often. If it happen to be investigating during a solar flare, whatever. If you
Yeah.
catch more activity that during that time period or not, or maybe it lessens. So I don't know. It'd be definitely interesting. Something to definitely keep an eye on, I guess, or pay attention to at the very least.
I
What about
was
you,
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because it's supposed to disrupt communications and like cell phone signals and all that. So I'm wondering how that would affect like a spirit box or something, with like the radio
Mm,
waves and stuff. I wonder if that
Yeah.
would have an impact.
interesting.
That's just my thought.
Right. Or even like
Yeah, that's a good
EMFs too. I
question.
never thought about that. That could be possible too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be interested to see. I'd have to do some research to see what solar flares do, because I know they can mess with technology.
Yeah.
Um, because now I'm kind of remembering. I don't know if this was solar flare related or if they even knew what this. But you remember? Man, it was probably like 2 months ago when one of the cell phone providers had trouble one morning where like people's cell phones weren't working or something.
Yep.
I don't know what the
The
cause of that was. Yeah, right. You remember talking about? Was it AT&T
yeah,
maybe?
Yeah.
Or
AT&T
yeah, T-Mobile or
like
something. That was one of them.
outage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know if that's solar flare related, because I know solar flares can somehow possibly affect that kind of stuff. So
I
I
think
don't
they
know.
said it was.
Yeah, that's what I
But that
thought, right?
also yeah.
But it
Yeah, I
also
think
could
they
be a
said it
lie.
was. Yeah, or else you
Yeah.
know, you never know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
so it's interesting because if it can affect technology, then it could maybe even give you some false readings on some EMF detectors, possibly,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good
possible.
question.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting though. Definitely interesting. I
Is this still
appreciate that
happening right
question.
Yeah.
now? Maybe we should do a test. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I think it is still happening right now, so by all
even
Well, I
at,
don't.
means.
even at night.
I do not want to do the spirit box in my house. I
Yeah,
just don't want
I
to
don't
know.
blame you.
I
I
don't
don't
blame you.
either.
I
I
wouldn't.
don't either.
I think Jason, are you trolling us or is this your children?
Oh, that was me. I was
Okay,
trolling.
I just wanted to make sure. It's
That
like a
was me.
monster. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a monster. Yeah.
Okay. And then Steven says hello. That was earlier on. So yeah, I just like to
Oh.
get the comment out there. All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot of different things. I think we definitely covered both of your books. Um,
Mhm.
Now as far as paranormal investigations, we were talking in pre-show about a couple things that have happened recently. On a few investigations. I don't know if you want, but which one do you want to talk about? They're both interesting. I think you can talk about both of them or one of them, whichever you want to talk about, or even something
Oh,
else that's happened on investigation recently that you want to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, so the two things that I remember that we were talking about was the um the Gettysburg orphanage investigation that I recently did with some of my friends for my birthday. So that was one of the most active investigations I've had in a very long time. And I think I sent you, Phil,
Mm-hmm.
a video of the evidence, and it's also on my TikTok. So there was more than just this, but this was wild. So we got there and the caretaker was like, I'm going to be in my office and I'm just going to be sitting there the entire time being really quiet, just, so, as to not like interfere with any like sound recordings or anything. She just like let us know what she was going to be doing and where to find her if we needed help or something. And so we were like, okay. So she goes into her office and we go to the other end and we're sitting down in the basement. And we start asking, we're like, if you're here, can you make a noise for us? Can you knock on something? And we heard right above us loud footsteps, like that were making the floor above, like the ceiling creak, like above us. And we were like, oh, it must be the caretaker walking around. And it started happening every single time we asked. We were like, hey, can you, we couldn't hear you over the footsteps. Can you do it again? And then the footsteps would happen again. And we were like, at that point we were kind of like not like mad, but a little frustrated because it's like, dang it, I'm not saying like she can't, like it's her building, she can do whatever she wants, but we're just like, man, I thought she was gonna be sitting down, and now it's like every time we ask something we can't hear anything. Turns out we asked her about it later, and we were like, hey, like we heard footsteps during the first half of the investigation, was that you? And like she was like, no, I was sitting at like in the other room, like I said, just hanging out, and there was nobody in the room above you guys. So I have that on video. You can hear the footsteps. They are so loud that like you can hear it in the video. Like it's like not just like steps, it's like stomping, like, and it's making the ceiling creak above us. And it was a lot. Like I genuinely thought it was her. Like all of us did. We were not thinking ghosts.
Right.
Yeah. So there was that, and that entire night was really active. We got some very intelligent responses through Spirit Box, through REM Pod, all of that. It was a lot. And the other thing that I remember I was talking to you about was so I revisited my hometown, Pensacola, recently. And I went back to a lot of the places that I did my first ever investigations. And but I also went to a new location that I never knew about because it was never open to the public. It was a private residence, but now it's like a site that they allow tours, and my friend works there as a tour guide and also as their psychic medium. So it's an incredibly haunted house, has a lot of history. They even call it the House of Pain.
Interesting. Creepy. That's
yeah.
That's never a bad. It's always bad.
Always a bad sign. Yeah. So we had a lot happen there, but one of the main thing that was also where Steve came back through. But
Gotcha.
Anyway, I digress. So we are sitting upstairs, and it's me, two of my friends, my husband, and her husband was downstairs when this happened. But so we heard a man calling up the stairs, and we couldn't hear what they were saying. And then my friend was like, what? Like, what did you just say? And got no response. And then she was like, what are you doing? And called her husband's name. And he just goes, what? From like the complete opposite end of where we heard it. And she was like, we just heard a voice like that was male calling up the stairs. And he was like, no, I've been over here like doing this and that. And he was like, I didn't even hear anything, but I have that on video. You can hear the voice.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's very clear. Very clear. Yeah, this is the one you sent to me. You sent both of these clips to me. Yeah. The footsteps is clear as day, and this is clear as day too. And it does. I'm trying to remember if it does sound a lot like him or not. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But I mean, it's not quite. But you can definitely hear like there's a voice there, and there's like someone calling out, and then it's clearly not him because it's like you said, like, from a different direction, a different voice.
Came from a different area.
Different area. Like no, it's very, very. That's such an awesome catch. Such an
Oh
awesome
man,
catch.
I thought that was so weird because, like, again, we were not thinking ghost at that time. Like, that's always the craziest evidence is when, or experiences in general, even if you don't catch it, where you think it's a person. Your first instinct is not spirit, it's person, and then it turns out it was not a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially it's nothing better when you can hear something in the moment and be like, "Did you
Yeah.
hear that?" And be like, "Yeah, I heard that." And then you go back
Yes.
and then you find out, you're like, "Oh my God, I definitely heard what I thought I heard."
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, and you're
and
like,
then
I caught
you
it.
feel so valid. Yeah, you still feel so validated
Yes.
because if you didn't have that recorder going, then it's just a random story that you don't even know. You don't even know if it really happened because
Exactly.
you're like, "Am I in my own mind? Did this really happen? Did I really
Yeah.
hear what I heard?" But to actually hear it
Yeah.
and then to catch it, awesome,
Yeah.
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. And then, like you said, to catch something and to not even realize that you're catching something paranormal until
Yeah.
after the fact, then you're like, "Wait a minute, what? That was you didn't say something right there?" Then you're like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
Then somebody said something. I heard something. Then we like
Exactly.
you're scrambling to listen back to. You're like, "Oh my God, there's something there." So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome piece of
Yeah.
Yeah,
evidence. It's great.
That was really exciting for sure.
Yeah, I think Marty actually agrees as well. Those are trippy when you actually hear
You
the
can hear
voices during a live investigations. Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Absolutely. That's
absolutely.
like a whole other level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, um, especially when you like if you're by yourself, sometimes you can even doubt yourself because even if you are
Yeah.
recording, but if you have someone else and you you hear something and you like both stop and like look at each other at the same time and you're like, you're like, you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, there was definitely something happening there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
yeah,
Even
awesome.
my husband, who's a skeptic, heard it.
Mm, right. There you go. And
Yeah, he's like, I
that's
don't
like the
know.
yeah, he's like, I don't
Yeah.
know, that's like a bird or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They try to just
Yeah.
rational it as fast as
And it's
possible.
just
Oh
like,
yeah, I don't.
that was
And then you're
not
like,
a
that wasn't a
bird.
bird. Then they're like, yeah, I don't know, that wasn't a bird. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah. Just like, no, it wasn't a bird. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's exactly how it goes. But no,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. No, those are some great pieces of evidence and catches for sure. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you're looking for when you're going out. Speaking of evidence, I know this is a hard question because people ask me this all the time, but
Mhm.
I just have to ask. What do you think is the best piece of evidence that you've ever caught while investigating, in your opinion, obviously? I know it's a tough
Okay.
question.
So, oh man. So there's a piece of evidence I got that may be the best, but I wasn't investigating. But if we're talking about just while investigating, okay, that is a really hard question. my first thought, my first thought was when I was a kid, there was this spirit who would come to me in my dreams. And I know that it was a spirit because later on I would go on to hear her, and my mother would go on to hear her, and my my brother's wife would go on to see her and had the exact same dream while in the house, and I never told her about that dream.
Wow.
So I know it was her. She told me her full name in these dreams: first, middle, and last. I tried to research her, could never find her. But this one day, I was investigating my house when I was like 12 with my like middle school, high school best friend, and we caught an EVP saying the full name, first, middle, and last of that girl.
That's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an
Yeah.
awesome catch. That's an awesome. And you said you can never find any real history to find out who this person was, if they were a real person or not.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's really strange,
Yeah,
especially
nothing. I
nowadays
can't
with
find anything.
Ancestry
Yeah.
and ancestry.com and stuff like
I
that, and all
know.
these kind of different. Like you figured there'd be something out there, like some sort of at least the first and last name, maybe not the
Yeah.
middle name, maybe just an initial or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird,
Yeah. I
weird.
can't
And
find
but then
anything. I
again,
can't find anything on that house.
really
Hmm.
Yeah.
strange. That is
Like
really
the
weird.
house wasn't, it was built in like the late 60s. There were never any
Oh,
deaths in the house.
hmm.
But I do know that like the land, like that whole area, there was Civil War history, and
Mm,
my aunt's house was directly behind mine through the woods, and she also had a seriously haunted house with very similar activity. So I think it was based on the land.
Mm.
And I don't know for sure if it was Civil War stuff, because I don't know if that was directly right in that piece of land where we were, but it was about 15 minutes down from me for sure.
Mhm.
And not much is known about that battle, except for the fact that it happened. So you never know. But the girl, though, she didn't look like she was from that time period. She looked more modern. So I don't know.
Interesting. Weird.
It was weird.
Yeah, definitely weird. I mean, it begs the question, maybe that's why she's restless. Maybe something happened to her
Yeah.
and that she's forgotten and that sort of thing, and that's
Yeah.
why there's this sort of image of her there. I don't know. That's very strange.
Yeah.
Very, very weird.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
like
it
you,
is.
especially nowadays, you're saying that she has modern clothes and stuff, so it's like even
Yeah.
weirder, even stranger that you can't find a name or something that
Yeah.
matches this person.
It was
Very,
weird.
very strange. Yeah,
Yeah, I've been trying to
very
look
strange.
stuff up about her for a really long time, and I can't find anything. Like, the only clue that I can think of, which isn't like a clue that I found anywhere, it was that in the dream, she would be opening up the crawl space under my house and pointing in there and telling me to go in there.
Yikes.
Yeah, and so some people have told me maybe she was telling you to go there so you would find something that belonged to her, or maybe
Her
her.
herself.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
You
Nope.
know, but I never
That's
did, so
even creepier, especially if you're a
yeah.
kid. Like, I'm sorry, whatever your 3 name is, you should be going to an adult, not a small child. This is
Yeah,
scaring. This would be
seriously.
scary as hell. I was like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not going in there. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I would be like, "No," and then she would start screaming, and I would be like,
Oh my
"Oh my god,"
gosh.
and I'd
Jeepers,
wake up, like,
bro.
terrified.
Yeah, right.
It was really scary, and it was the same dream every time. Like, there would be
Oh,
little
brutal.
differences sometimes,
Mhm,
but it was
mhm.
always like, I'd wake up, I would get out of bed, I would look, I would see myself sleeping in the bed. Very Insidious, like
Yeah,
Insidious 1,
right.
Insidious 2, the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
This
literally.
is before I ever saw those movies, though, because I was, like, 8,
Yeah,
I think.
young. Yep.
Yeah. And, she would be standing there, she had a red dress, she had blonde hair, and sometimes she had a teddy bear, and she'd be like, "Hey, come play with me," and I'd be like, "Okay," so I'd go follow her, and she'd take me outside, she'd open up the crawl space door, and she'd go, "Get in, go in there," and I'd be like, "No," and she would start screaming and crying, and the tears that were coming out looked weird, and, like, it was terrifying, and I would wake up, like, in a cold sweat. Um, so, later on, my my family, like my mother, father, younger brother, and I moved out of that house for about a year because my father had a work thing in the state capital. So my older brother and his wife moved into that house while we were gone, but we were going to come back. Like, it was this whole thing. So they knew it was haunted. They knew that there was a little girl, but they didn't know that I had seen her in dreams. They knew I had heard
Mm.
her and that my mom had heard her, but they didn't know that I had very specific dreams about her. They didn't know what she looked like or any of that. So this one day, my brother's wife texts me and she's like, "Hey, you said your house is haunted, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" She's like, "Was one of those ghosts a little girl?" And I was like, "Yes, why?" And she's like, "Well, I had this dream that this girl in a red dress woke me up, and I stood up and I looked in the bed and I saw my body laying there, and she told me to come play with her, and I said no, and she started screaming and crying, and I woke up terrified." And I was like, "Oh my god." Like, "Oh my god."
Nope.
Yeah, even more
No, no.
validating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Jeepers crow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, that's weird. Now looking back, do you think this actually was a little girl?
I
Or do
don't
you think
know.
this is something else pretending to be a little girl? Because you did say it did the tears look kind of strange and it did just
Yeah.
kind of odd and the play with me angle's kind of weird.
Mhm. I
Almost asking for
don't know.
permission, kind of. Oh, that's kind of
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah. The truth is I don't know, and especially the fact that I can't find anything
If
about
you
her
can't find
makes
no
it
history,
weird.
yeah, you add that angle into it, it gets kind of weird. You're like,
Yeah.
that's kind of weird,
Um, I
strange.
there wasn't really anything in that house that I ever felt like was good. Like,
Mm,
I didn't feel like a bad vibe from her necessarily, but I did get a scary vibe from her.
mm,
And there wasn't anything in that house that I think was good. I don't think necessarily everything was evil, but I don't think necessarily everything was good. They were like
mm.
neutral. It
Yeah.
was like neutral to really freaking mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was some other type of entity playing the little girl card to try to
Hmm.
fool me and make me feel comfortable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
which did
Yeah.
a bad job of that because I was not comfortable.
Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all these amazing
Yeah, yeah.
stories and giving
Of
us your
course.
time. And before we wrap this up, why don't you tell everyone your books and where they can find them, where they can find all your TikToks and your videos, Instagram, all that stuff. Promote away, and then
Well,
yeah, we'll go from
wait,
there. Yo, you have something
not
to say,
yet.
Jason?
Not yet.
Oh,
I have a question. Come on.
he's got a question.
I've been listening this whole time, so I got to get a question. And
Yeah.
so I have okay. So very similar. We had some very similar experiences, growing up in a house that was haunted, and my whole life
Yeah.
living there. Seemed like almost every night something would happen.
Yeah.
So I had this weird entity, and I've only heard about 3 or 4 other people who have actually seen something like this.
Yeah.
The only way I can describe it is, what a tumbleweed looks like?
Yes.
It looks like vines in a ball.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. It was all black,
Ooh.
and it would like rotate, like the vines would move. Almost every night it would come and like be in front of my face while I was sleeping. I'd
Oh.
wake up and it would be there. Like it would like wake me up, open my eyes, and it would be there over my head. And it got to the point where I was mad because it was there, right? Because it wouldn't let me sleep. But it would go away up into one certain corner of my room every night and
Oh.
disappear. Yeah, I didn't. Have you
No.
ever heard anything like that before? Have you ever like experienced or heard anything weird? Okay.
I haven't experienced it. I've heard of like people seeing orbs, but that doesn't sound like an orb to me.
No.
That's weird. I can kind of picture like what it would look like though, like
Yeah.
by how you're describing it. No, I've never had an experience like that. I've definitely seen things that I have never heard of anyone else seeing.
Yeah.
So I understand that like, cause I would see these like snake-like things on my wall at night, and my mom saw them too. They were like, but they didn't look like snakes. They looked like rounded, like it was weird. I can't even explain it. So I know what you mean.
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like it doesn't look human.
Yeah. Not.
But you can't explain what the heck it is.
I was looking for a pen. I was going to draw it real quick, but
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
I don't have a pen on me. So. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean that's really creepy. That would scare me.
It was creepy. I mean, I still to this day don't know what it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you had Tommy on, didn't you say that Tommy kind of described something sort of similar?
Yeah, it was sort of, but not really, but kind of. I don't know. I'm drawing it right now.
Okay.
Let's
But
see how
sort
good
of,
of a drawer.
like,
It's
like
going to be
that,
like,
like scribbles, but like
Yeah.
yeah, it would be like, but it would be moving.
Did it have a defined face at all? Or
No, not a face. It was just like, okay. So I remember I saw something very similar to what it looked like. Have you guys seen Stranger Things, the TV show?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the last season where they're in spoilers, guys? Sorry, if you haven't seen it. It's been out for a while.
Yeah.
Where they're in Russia and he's in the gulag or whatever.
Yeah.
And they go in that room and that ball is inside that tape. That's what it looked like. That's the best way to describe it.
That is horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
I mean, when I saw that, I was like, that's what it was to my wife. My wife was like, what?
That was what?
That's what it looked like to me.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
My memory, that's what it looked like. So,
yeah, that's
Oh my
crazy,
God.
dude.
Yeah.
That's
That is
wild.
genuinely so scary.
It is. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I always,
Interesting.
if anybody's had similar, experiences to me growing up, I always like to ask, have you ever seen this? Because
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
Interesting.
haven't. I haven't seen
Interesting.
that.
yeah,
But
it's
wow.
weird.
Marty wanted to chime in, Jason, about this.
Okay.
Do you think it might have been a large orb?
I don't know. I mean, possibly, but it was black instead of like orbs usually
Yeah.
light.
And did
So, I
it
don't know.
have the same shape, or was it always changing?
It was always changing. So
Always changing.
I would say Venom from the Spider-Man, how his
Yeah.
suit would like that, like
The morphing.
morphing
Yeah.
black goo sort
Oh.
of like
Gotcha.
I mean,
Never the same.
but a tumbleweed because it's a
always
ball.
changing. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
ball. It's
Yeah.
not flat. It's a a ball
It's a
moving
ball.
like in 3-dimensional. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my
Interesting.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We'll have to get. We'll have to ask. Keep on asking that. See if that's.
Yeah. I
ever popped
mean,
up.
Yeah.
I heard something on the confessionals. This lady from Australia had a similar encounter, but that's the only other one I think I've heard. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'll keep my eyes open for like anyone who has had any kind of experience like that, because that's
definitely
that's
different
creepy.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know how it feels to
Absolutely.
be like, I saw this thing and I've never heard of anyone else ever seeing the same thing. Like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
So-
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. I mean, what did they was in the mind flare? Is that what they called it in Stranger Things?
Oh, I dude, I couldn't tell you. It's been so long since I saw.
I know. I was gonna
The
say
last
it's
season.
been
Once
a
I see
while.
it, it's right out of my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to look it up, but
Yeah,
Once
I
that
forgot what it was
season's
called.
over, it's gone.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think Marty has the right. I think that's what I would say.
what do you say?
He says, "Oh hell no."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Definitely
big
cover
no.
your eyes. Just close your eyes. Nope, not today. Just gonna close my eyes and I'm sleeping. I'm not awake.
But the thing is, I got so used to it that I got mad and would like,
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yep.
that's the weird
Like,
thing,
go away. Knock it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. For sure.
Yeah.
Poor Jason, still seeking the answers.
I am. I mean, seriously.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you at all.
That's too
Funny, quick little story about Stranger Things. So I don't get scared by things. Like, I'm a paranormal investigator. I don't usually get scared that much anymore. But when Vecna came out on the screen,
Oh,
I
gosh.
literally fainted.
Yeah.
Did you what?
I literally fainted. to be fair, I have a heart condition.
Oh,
So
gotcha. Yeah.
just to be fair. But I fainted and I woke up in my husband's lap and he was like, "Hey, you just passed out." And I was like, "Oh, I must have just fallen asleep." And he was like, "No,
No,
you
no,
passed
you
out."
were dead awake and you collapsed.
And I was like, "No, I probably just fell asleep." He was like, "No, you full on collapsed, like just
Oh, that's
full on
funny.
collapsed." And I was like, "Oh, fun."
Gosh.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, not my
Yeah.
finest moment,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
So I love I love Stranger Things so much. My wife does also.
Yeah.
We actually went to Atlanta and visited all the locations.
Oh, that's cool.
And we
Filming
actually
location?
I actually found out where Vecna's house was where they filmed.
Oh
And it's
my
actually in
God.
Rome, Georgia. And we went and visited that. It was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard of
The house
Rome,
looks
Georgia.
so cool in person. It is,
That
I
is
mean, it's like super
amazing.
gothic looking, it's really cool. I think it's painted black. It's not
Oh,
anything like the movie, the film they,
Wow.
had it dressed up to look old and stuff, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Isn't it an
That is cool.
Airbnb now, or am I thinking of something else?
It was, I don't know if
It still is.
I don't know if it's when I was there, it wasn't an Airbnb, but it
Okay,
may be
cool.
now. So
Cool.
That's cool.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool. There's a lot of they're doing a lot of those kind of things with a lot of movie locations, like Christmas Story. I know you can rent the Christmas Story,
Oh my God.
the
Yeah.
one in like what is Cincinnati or wherever that is.
I think it was like Indiana.
Indiana, maybe. Yeah, wherever it
Yeah.
is, wherever that house is, you can rent that house. The Short Circuit house in Oregon, you can rent where they filmed the
Yeah.
movie Short Circuit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a couple places like that, which have
Wow.
got to be surreal,
Mhm.
especially if you're
Yeah.
like a huge fan of those movies. Like it'd be like for me, it'd be like renting the Goonies house or something. Like that would be really, weird. You know what I mean? It'd be
Yeah.
cool, but it would be strange, like standing in those spots, and it is very weird. So
Oh my god.
cool.
I want to
but
rent
weird.
the supernatural bunker.
Oh yeah,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
That would be so
I love it.
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm,
That's what
I'm
I'm
still
saying.
looking for
That'd be
this
cool.
thing. So
Yeah.
I want to
20
find a
years
picture of it.
later, he's still gonna, he's gonna quit this job he's got now and just dedicate his
and
life
just to look to find a picture of this. Then I'll have to put out this podcast. Remember back when I was trying to.
Well, I found the thing.
Yeah. Oh my god, too funny. Well, while
I'm never
Jason's
gonna find
looking
it.
away, he's never gonna find it. But
I'm never gonna
as
find
he's
it.
looking for it, why don't you plug your wonderful, amazing books, all your TikTok, all your other stuff?
All right. So on Amazon, you can find my paranormal books under Ghost Girl, a memoir of my childhood paranormal experiences by Allie Rose. And then the second one is The Door is Open by Allie Rose. And I have a few poetry books available on Amazon as well. The most recent one is called Stops Along a Timeline, and I do have some spooky poetry in there too. Not all of it's spooky, but there is some. And yeah, my social media on everything. So Facebook, Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now. TikTok especially, and Instagram especially, are under Spooky Alley Cake. So like Spooky Alley and like cake. like
Okay.
like a cake. It's a nickname I've had for a long time. I don't know
It
what
works.
It means.
Yeah,
But
it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that is those are my social media handles. And yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Go out, buy her book, follow her on all the social medias, follow her on TikTok. She does awesome TikTok videos. Yeah, so make sure you go out and support her, give her some love in the comments and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate you having you on. Jason, you have any other questions? Anything else you want to say? Maybe promote Fat Tack one more time.
Yeah. Okay. I want to say thanks for joining us. It was really good to have you on. And I love your stories. You're a great storyteller, and it was awesome. But guys, yeah, check out fattack.com, and also please follow us wherever you do social media, because as soon as I find this picture, I'm going to post it on our social media.
On Instagram, you guys got to see this picture.
Yeah, go to
He's posting it
Instagram
right now.
Yeah. But also I want to say, if you're watching this, because we're go live on both places on Exploring with Phil and AFK Discussion. So if you're watching on Exploring with Phil, come follow us over on AFK Discussions and help us out. Give us a love on both channels. But guys, I guess that's about it, man.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.
Awesome.